Good morning. We are going to review two hands. These are more recent hands where I called a open raise pre-flop from the button. And what we want to do is look at uh, calling versus possibility of raising pre-flop, as well as looking to see if we have spots where we could have raised or bet later in the hand. So hand number one's Jack 10 of clubs on the button. This is a 25 NL game. See that we have an open raise and then a call, and it's to us. So villain 22 is playing 13-8. I have three. This guy looks like he is a tight, aggressive player, and look at him. He uses positions. So his early position is going to be much tighter. He starts to loosen up a bit in position cutoff, and then the button widest position 17%. His raise first in, I think, mimics those that VPIP increase. So there's going to be very few hands, if any, that he's going to limp. So let's build his 13% pre-flop range. We can look. If I didn't have any individual notes other than he calls two bets from the blinds, pocket four. So he'll probably call a bet with little pocket pairs. Probably then raises them first in. Limps and calls with 9-7 suited. That may have been a later cutoff button position. So plays his turn draws aggressively. So start with some of these broadways. We're going to give him suited aces. Got the pocket pairs. He is in effectively middle position with a hijack. So don't want to give him an overly wide range. Yet we don't want to give him such a tight range that he's not. It's not going to be realistic. So that's 15.8%. He makes a standard raise. I think that's probably pretty decent. He might not raise with raise with ace king, ace 10 suited, and then small suited aces. That gets us to 14.6. If we leave them in, it's not going to be a huge deal. Player like this being tight probably isn't going to play those, especially mid position cutoff. Probably isn't going to be playing those because those ace mid kickers are a little bit harder to play. I think we're okay with that. Gets us to 14.6, which is close. I think probably we're gonna leave. I think that's a pretty good hand. 14.6%. All right, so copy this range. This is 2 MP. That's his range. Or the button, and we have Jack of clubs, 10 of clubs. So against that range, we're 57%. I'm sorry, 42%. What about the caller? Caller's 28-4, quite a bit looser, also a bit more passive. So when we look at his hands, definitely calls a bit more on the button and from the blinds, but it doesn't look like he's really using position a whole lot. If anything, he may be using position in terms of raising. So he'll limp more early position, and then it's the later position. He'll throw in his raise first ins and pre-flop raises and so forth. Also three ins. So he didn't raise, which is important to know, because I think if he raises, then he probably has plus ace king. We can say queens plus as well. Some ace king, that's 2.6%. Maybe throw in ace queen suited or jacks. He didn't raise. So question is, what does he call? His all two bet frequency is 20% in the cutoff, but it's only at 10 hands. So we know that his 3-bet percentage is 1 out of 10. So 1 out of 10 times 3-bet. 2 out of 10 times. So let's build something. Maybe start with 20% call range. We're going to give him all the suited aces. I think we're going to those hands in his range. That's probably about right. Maybe the Jack 10 offsuit we'll take out. That gets 21. I think that's probably about right. But remember, he didn't 3. So let's take the most likely betting hands out. That's at 87%. Copy that range in. Paste that button. Calculate it. We are, see that we are about 9% maybe against the 2 players. Now, our decision is to call or to raise. Or we fold. It's just 0 EV. I think that's probably a little too tight with the Jack 10 clubs. Yeah, it's speculative. You have some high card strength. You have connected suitedness, connectedness. You got all the things that want to make this hand play, and we have position. So if we just call individually, we're behind each of the hands. If we call, we're gonna be behind a lot of them. Together, though, we're doing even worse at 31%. If we call, does either of these players also call? Yeah, most likely player to call would be this guy, which puts us into a 4-way pot. What if we raise instead? So his fold to 3-bet's 80%. His fold to 3-bet is, so this is 80%. He's folded 4 out of 5 times. I think if we fold, he's going to fold out a lot of these hands. Probably he's going to really tighten up. He's probably going to fold all of those pocket pair hands, probably all of those hands, probably get rid of those offsuit hands. Pretty drastic. Now, against the call, we're doing even worse, but I think we're going to make it up. So if he folds, let's say 60%, 60%, and this guy, he could actually fold even more. He may be afraid of what this guy's calling. He could actually dump all of those. Maybe even 10 ace jack. Just call something like this at 5.1. So he's folding. G's 2/3. We'll change that to 66%. What does this guy do? Well, he's already loose, so he's probably still going to call pocket pairs. He's still probably going to call the suited aces. Probably going to call some of these suited kings, but then all these pocket pairs. It's questionable whether he calls these or not. So if he calls those, he's also folding like half. So let's see here. We've got 66% fold times, let's say it's just 50%. Both players are going to fold percent of the time if I raise, and even if they call, I'm going to have position on them. So I think instead of a call and putting myself potentially 4-way pot with a mediocre hand that has to hit and defending against the preflop aggressor, I should have raised. I think I should have raised, but I didn't. It's called. So let's get these ranges back. What we had. Blinds folded. So we're going to the flop. We see a flop. King of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, and 5 spades. Hit middle pair, which is pretty decent. Pot's 10.4, but we're up against 2 opponents. His first opponent is going to have top pair, say at least 20% maybe. It's going to be top pair plus 25%. So he's going to hit the flop about 25%. He's going to have a flush draw 7% of the time. So just top pair plus with the flush and open straight draw, it's going to hit him 33, which means 2/3. Is he going to c-bet? Well, he has a c-bet flop of 4%, c-bet turn 10%. So it seems like he's cautious with c-bets. He's probably going to c-bet that give him equity, and that maybe it may have hit the board in some way. Does it bets 2/3 pot? So I think when he bets, he's probably going to bet something like this, maybe any pair plus. Because in his mind, we both called, so ace king be out. Aces, kings are probably not in our range and everything. So if he has a king, he's probably good. I think he would bet about that amount to try to get us to, if we call our diamonds, to basically charge us, which is fine. So he bets. I think that's his range. Against that range, 5%. Dylan folds. This guy. It's on. We just call. What are we going? We call fires a double barrel. I think what we've done now is set up a situation. We have called the flop. It's kind of passive play. We've called the turn with passive play. His mind, he's so we could have had a king, king jack, king queen. Could have a 10, could have a pocket pair. I think if we call, we're going to open ourselves up to a turn bet. I think one thing that we could do is raise at this point, because if we raise, I think let's do this. So he's got 42%. Right now, he's say 43. Right now, he's c-bet 40. If we raise, I think he's pocket pair top. He will call top pair over pair. I think he'll 3-bet sets, but we'll probably call flush draw, open and straight. Does he call with all of his? Yeah, probably. He said 40%. So he's calling 33%. So 33% out of, he's calling 77% of the time. It means he's folding 24%. I think buys this equity. Moreover, if he calls, if he diamond hits, we could potentially bet again, because he has to be aware, he has to be concerned that we actually have hit that diamond flip. I think we're gonna bet. I think we could bet kings. We could say pair kings. We could bet diamond, and so forth. I chose not to do that. It's called, which I think was also okay, because we're calling with the intention to take the pot away. We're either ahead 10, so he doesn't have any, or we're behind the kings and we need to improve. Something needs to change. 2 of diamonds hits, and I think that's actually good for him. So he bet 2/3 pot and now checks. I think when he checks, he could check the flush. I think he can check. Maybe not all of the flushes. I think the ace high flushes check, and probably the queen. I think queen jack suited bets. He's got a royal flush draw. He's gonna bet. If he gets called, he's got a solid draw. So I think those cards he checks. Sets maybe pot control, so he could check 2 pair over pair. I think he could check again. Top pair probably checks. Maybe he checks all. Checks his entire range. So he's got 81%, and then it's to us. What do we do? I think this is a good spot to go ahead and bet, and I think we should bet sizably. Maybe a pot size bet here. We're betting as basically a bluff. We're taking our second pair, making it a bluff, and the reason we're doing that is if we bet that amount, I think he's going to fold his pocket pairs below top pair. It's definitely going to call his flushes, sets. He'll probably call his overpair, his top pair. That may call, or he could just, because I bet so large he folds. Any pair below that, I think it's folding. Second nut flush draw, that queen of diamonds probably is going to fold. If he has the ace of diamonds, that's going to be pocket ace or ace king. He's definitely opening in straight draw, probably. So if I bet this, he's going to 74, or he's going to continue 74% of the time. He's folding 6%. So if I bet pot, right, we're betting pot to win. It's in the pot, so 1/2, which means a break-even point 50%. He folds 25%, which gets us there. So this isn't necessarily an auto profit spot. So a pot might not be the best possibility. If we bet half pot, what does that look like? So if we bet, say 12, we're betting 12 to win 36. 12 to win 6. Can't type today. I need him to fold 33% of the time. Not quite there with his hand, unless he folds his top pair. So if he folds his top pair, definitely, we're going to be good. And I think with how our hand played, he could conceivably have that diamond. He is tight, so he may give us credit for having that big diamond draw. Say, I can't believe the diamond hit. So I think if we say this top pair, say even 75% of the time he calls and 25% he folds, we hit that. We're at 35%, and I think that's reasonable. So a half pot bet, I think, can. If he calls, I think we're going to probably have to be. He's not demonstrating that, and he probably has a pair to go with his nut. I checked. River was a three of clubs, and he checks, and now we just have to give up. We have a showdown value hand. I don't think there's any point betting here. I think if we bet, he's going to call all of his top pairs plus and got second pair. I don't think he we checked, so I have to take. He has all of his here, so we have to check because I think if we bet, I don't think he's going to call anything other than top pair. Uh, Even the pocket pair below top pair, maybe he calls, but that still beats us. Uh, we bet we're hoping that he calls something weak, and if you look at those middle pairs, it's ace 10 beats us, jack 10 we split, 10-9 we win. So two combinations. Then you have the queen jack, the straight draw that missed. So I think we're behind. I think we just have to check behind now and see the river. And he shows king jack. It's interesting that he raised king jack because we didn't have that in his. So add king jack, then he's probably also raising with jack off and probably also ace 10. But adds in a few more hands that he could play. A few more hands to play. When you get to the flop, he's got a lot more top pair hands. If we raise, um, he'll have hands that will likely call. But then on the turn, I think when we bet, now look at it, 75% calling. Our equity here, 57%. We bet half pot. We're beyond the break even. Even 2/3. 2/3 pot gets us there. So we do 2/3 pot here. 16. We're betting 16 to win 40. So we need 40% holds. We're getting that. So 2/3 pot, knowing this range. Thing we should do is mark down what he raised pre-flop in. Raise first in from hijack with king jack off. So that way, when we got his range, yeah, he's tight. King jack off kind of alerts us to the fact that he'll have queen jack off and ace 10 off. He might also have then these suited aces, these ace 9 to ace 6s. But maybe he does. Maybe he's Broadway. All right, so this is hand number 1. We didn't have it because we didn't include king jack. We thought he'd be a little bit tighter. But we worked through the hand and I think identified a spot where we could have made a play on the turn instead of checking it down. So making a play in the hopes that we could pick up the pot. And I think we had a pretty good chance to do that. So I think the highest EV play was probably the bet, try to win it. And we probably should have just went ahead and we 3-bet pre-flop. He's folding. We pick up the 6 big blinds plus the blind, so 7.5. All right, so this is hand number 1. Let's close it out and look at 2. Hand number 2 is ace jack offsuit. So we have a limp. It's going to be can. His stats, his plays 50%. Is 2 out of 16, so 6 out of 16 he has. He's questioning. See limp set up. Say ace first in, probably something like that. Could be something like at 20%. This may be a little. That we don't have a whole lot of hands on him. 125, but in this spot, early position, 16 hands. So I think that's going to be a pretty wide. Does he get looser as his position improves? Not really. So maybe then adding in two gappers, maybe all aces he lives with his hands. So we know he raises. That gives us 35%. We still be tight at probably what we're looking at. Something very, very villain five. He's a 420, but it's only five hands. So we have to kind of just go by default and say what happens at this level. Have a limper by a guy that's notably red. He could increase his pre-flop rate. So we already have a not gonna small. Gonna include the ways it recognize that he's in a spot, and maybe something like maybe with all of the suited aces, uh, that's at 95%. That's a pretty tight rate. Then it holds us and can call or so. If we call, we're at the top of his range. Yeah, we're behind his pocket pairs, but look at all these other jacks, uh, all these other offsuit crap hands. This one, I think we're a little bit in the middle of strong, uh, which is fine. I think we could argue call, but if we call, then that incentivizes this guy to. So take this is for the gun. So he's gun, and then under the gun plus one. It's that range. We are on ace of diamonds, jack of spades. See that this guy's tighter for all. We're actually doing pretty good against this combo. It's like we're on equal footing with this player. What about these other two players? This is an unknown. This player, he's probably just gonna fold. If he calls, he's gonna pocket pair a suited ace. So here, I think is another situation where instead of call or big blind bet, and again, I think this size maybe a way kind of indicating that he's got a stronger hand. He's trying to isolate this under the gun player who's loose. I think a three bet would have been better. I think a three bet would probably get this player fold, maybe. Even if he calls, we're gonna. He doesn't have jacks plus, doesn't have ace king ace range, uh, well ahead. This guy, if we, I think he's going to fold out these weak hands. We fold out a lot of the suited aces, which would be good for us. Which means if a jack falls, it's possible that we then have top pair, best hand, and raising puts us in a bread and butter situation at that point. So I didn't do that. I just called, and as expected, this player calls, and we see a flop of Jack 9-5 with two. So a situation where we have top pair, we're probably ahead of both players. They have jacks. They may have hit top pair, but we have top. Let's get this in here and see how we do just on the flop. So now we are at 60%, 60% equity. And we have to think about what are we on this board. I expect villain 4 to check. Unless he has maybe a jack or a nine. He has a jack or a nine. Well, he's probably donking flop. He's leading out because that's what this player does. 33%. He's hoping that no one This guy also has donked 1 out of 1, but he has the lead. I would expect this guy to bet. So villain checks. First guy checks. Again, he checks, so I think I'm going to take out top pair. I'm just going to take out top pair. Make sure that 2 card back. So yeah, against that checking range, we're going to pay ahead. That's our next guy bets. So he bet half pot. I think that's a standard bet. I think he's probably going to do it with top pair, pocket or mid pair. I think he's probably going to do it with of his. He's loose, and the board actually fits my calling very well. It's his calling range too. If this player recognizes it, it's probably not going to ace high hands at this point. C betting his flush draws, his open and straight draws. Maybe his weak pairs, 6, 7, 8, ace 5, because he has a pair and hoping that if maybe the gut shots he with that flush on the I think are a little less like he could. I mean, that's 84%. It's a with a thinking could be betting though, thinking that he could bet on any diamond. Maybe he could bet on queen king ace possibly if the board pairs. So if a 5 comes, he's good. If a 2, 3, 4, 6, I think are all favorable because it's not really changed the hand it's at. So I think we're gonna leave it there. And when we this time spades, that situation, you're gonna see that we have equity. We have the ace of diamonds. It's a flush. That much less likely. What do we do? Do we call? Do we raise? I think we have to be afraid of queen kings. So king, queen, 10, 8. So king, queen, 10, 8. I think our cards that we have to be wary of. Maybe 7 and 6, possibly. Could have a, but I think the diamonds are going to be. It's a diamond. It's significant. I think here we raise, and we raise, try to get this weaker player out, get heads up, take back the initiative so that we can decide what we do. If we bet, I think this player is going to probably call his flush draw, straight draw shots. Probably he'll probably fold his overcards. Overcards actually cost us equity. I think he'll raise the set. He'll 3-bet the set. I think he'll probably 3-bet overpair, because he's going to be looking at possibly thinking that we have the diamond draw. His top pair, I could see king jack, queen jack calling, jack 10 calling. We beat all of those. I think pocket 10s probably calls, middle pair calls, because he might put us on the diamond draw. Weak pair, probably not. So he's continuing. with some of these hands folding about 50%, but of the hands that we continue, we actually bought equity 69, 70% up to 73%. Yeah, we're gonna have to fold three bets, but it kind of gets us away from a bad situation because if we just call, he's gonna bet again on the turn, and on low card, are we really going to fold top pair, top kicker? I don't think so. So I think this is a spot where we should have raised. I didn't. I just called. This feeling fold, so we're just we're heads up here, and I think we're kind of in a tough spot. I think we could have bet. We could have raised here to be aggressive. Diamond gets there now. Let's get all. It was 82% was this continuance we just called, so we're still ahead at 70%. That's our estimate. And then the 8 of diamonds gets there, and now that 8 of diamonds, yeah, it makes a flush. It completes a straight. I think that hits our range a lot better than his range. So the pot's 29.6, and he bets. So he went from half pot bet up to 19. So at that, we have to think about what does that bet sizing mean? Could have bet 14 or didn't. He bet 19 points. So is that 2/3 pot maybe? Could have the flush, but it's 1.52. Could have the straight. Could have the set. Could have two pair. Could have the overpair. Ace, kings, queens. Top pair. I think we can leave it in, but I think oh, and tens. It's just a question. Would he bet all of these? Maybe. I don't think he'll bet middle pair, weak pair. Done with those hands. He might do the second nut flush draw, but I don't think it's going to be all of them. I think probably king jack, but I don't think he's going to call. I really think ace king's going to do it. I think it's going to be top pair second kicker with the king of diamonds or pocket kings. They'll have those. I think he'll open-ended straight draw. I think done with. So against that betting range, 5% still ahead. He may actually be tighter than that. So he could have checked top pair, pocket pair below top pair, maybe even the over pair because he diamond draw. And maybe that just leaves pair sets and possibly the flush draw. We're way behind. I don't think we hold because we do have some equity. We do have top pair and diamond draw back. I think we missed our raise. Our raise should have been on this turn. I think I'm okay with calling it. On the 8 of spades. Now, I don't think that really changes a whole lot. He checks, and I think we should just check behind. I don't. I think about what is he gonna call. I think he might call with top pair plus, and if we bet and he calls, we're only at 11% equity. I don't think this spot to try to go for some thin value. I think it's just bet we have a showdown hand, top pair, top kicker. Let's check behind and see what happens. And I do check behind, so I like that. And he shows, which was kind of interesting because I didn't really put that king off in his hand. I assumed king queen off wouldn't have bet again. It was here, but I assumed he would have eliminated that hand from his. So pair pair bets. Well, I guess we could leave it. So I think it when we add those hands, it's still a type of situation where if we bet he calls, we're going to be way behind. So he does have that. We took it out because we thought make that he would make that bet with a pair plus that flush draw. Here he did it with just his flush draw, and he had a gut shot too. So 10 gives him straight, gives him the straight. Diamond gives him third nut. I guess I see it. So I'll say this is kind of a 50-50 win. Add it in here, queen. We know that he'll continue betting on the draw and not even the nut. Key thing for this hand though is I think we probably should have raised pre-flop with ace jack instead of going three-way, potentially four-way. And even if we didn't, even if we just called, then I think we probably should have raised on that turn. And I think it would have put us into a little bit better situation. He still probably called, and then he would have called that turn bet, and we still checked down. So we may have won a little bit more than what we had. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Look again tomorrow for